Valara Station floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal flower, its arms stretched out in 6 directions, each one covered with windows that glowed with warm light. Inside those metal corridors, hundreds of different species lived and worked together. Some had fur, some had scales, and some looked like walking insects. This was the edge of known space where traders met and deals were made. Jiho wiped down the counter of his small shop. His hands moved in slow circles, the same motion he had done every morning for 3 years. The shop was tiny, squeezed between a Melvari food stall and a weapons dealer. But it was his. He sold earth goods, coffee, chocolate, books printed on real paper. Things that made other humans smile when they saw them. "Papa, can I go to the viewing deck?" Hana asked. She stood on her toes, trying to see over the counter. Her black hair was pulled into 2 small ponytails that bounced when she moved. Jiho looked at his daughter. She was 7 years old, small for her age, with bright eyes that always asked questions. "Stay where I can see you," he said. "And be careful." "I'm always careful," Hana said. She grabbed her small backpack and ran toward the door. "Walk, don't run!" Jiho called after her, but she was already gone. He smiled and shook his head. Children never walked when they could run. The station corridors were busy that morning. Hana moved between the crowds, saying "excuse me" in 3 different languages. She had learned them from listening to customers. Most aliens thought humans were strange. They came from a heavy world with dangerous weather, but they smiled too much and seemed too soft. Hana liked the viewing deck because she could see the stars. Real stars, not pictures on a screen. She would press her face against the cold glass and imagine visiting each one. Maybe when she was older, she would have her own ship. She turned a corner and bumped into something hard. Hana fell backward and landed on the floor. She looked up and her breath caught in her throat. Standing above her was a Kivathi officer. The alien looked like a giant mantis with long arms that ended in sharp claws. Her body was covered in dark green armor that seemed to grow from her skin. 4 eyes looked down at Hana with cold anger. "I'm sorry," Hana said quickly. She tried to stand up. "I didn't see you." "Inferior creature," Commander Velthra said. Her voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "You dare touch me?" "It was an accident," Hana said. Her voice was small now. She could feel her heart beating fast. "I said I'm sorry." Behind Velthra, 2 other Kaivathi officers watched. "They did nothing. Your kind should learn respect," Velthra said. She raised her arm high. The sharp claw caught the light from above. Then she struck. The claw hit Hana across the face with terrible force. The little girl flew sideways through the air. Her body crashed into a metal support beam with a sound that made people stop and turn. Hana crumpled to the floor and did not move. Blood spread slowly across the white floor panels. Velthra looked at her claw, then at the child. "Appropriate discipline," she said to her officers. "The council will understand." People gathered around Hana's still body. A Melvari trader was already calling for medical help. A Thorian ship captain knelt beside the girl, afraid to touch her. Everyone was talking at once. "Someone get her father." "Who did this?" "The child is barely breathing." Security cameras in the ceiling recorded everything. The footage was already uploading to the station's central computer. Within minutes, it would be backed up to 3 different servers. This was standard procedure. No one thought it was important yet. Jiho was counting inventory when his personal communicator buzzed. It was the station medical center. His hands shook as he listened to the voice on the other end. He ran faster than he had ever run before. The medical bay was too bright and too white. Jiho found Hana on a table, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. A human doctor named Suman was working on her, moving quickly but carefully. "Her skull is fractured," Suman said without looking up. "Brain trauma. We need to put her in a medical coma to reduce the swelling." "Jiho, I'm sorry, but I need you to step back." "Who did this?" Jiho asked. His voice did not sound like his own. "Who touched my daughter?" A station security officer stood near the door. His name was Borum, and he was human too. He looked sick. "It was a Kivathi commander," he said. "We have it on video. She claims diplomatic immunity." "Immunity?" Jiho felt something cold settle in his chest. "She hurt a child." "I know," Borum said. "But the Kaivathi Empire is powerful. The station administrator says we can only file a complaint. The commander is scheduled to leave in 3 days." Jiho looked at his daughter. Hana looked so small on the big medical table. Tubes ran into her arms. A machine breathed for her. This morning she had been laughing about visiting stars. Send me the footage, Jiho said quietly. Jiho, don't do anything. Send me the footage. Borum nodded slowly. He understood. He would have asked for the same thing. Within an hour, the video was spreading through human communication channels. It jumped from station to station, from ship to ship, from colony to colony. Every human in the galaxy could access it. They all watched the same thing, a small girl saying sorry, and an alien striking her down like she was nothing. The response was immediate. On the human diplomatic vessel Rising Dawn, Captain Yuna stopped in the middle of a sentence when she saw the footage. Her second officer, Taeyang, stood beside her. They watched in silence. How old is she? Taeyang asked. 7, Yuna said. Her voice was ice. Change course. Take us to Valara Station. Captain, we're supposed to— I gave you an order, Lieutenant. Taeyang nodded. He knew that tone. Every human knew that tone. It was the sound of a line being crossed. On Earth, in the Defense Fleet headquarters, Admiral Do-Yun watched the video 3 times. Then he picked up his communicator and made several calls. Short calls, quiet calls, the kind that did not show up in official records. In the shadows of the galactic underworld, a woman named Jiwon received a message. She was in a bar on a station very far from Valara. She watched the footage on her personal screen. Her face showed nothing, but her hands gripped the table edge hard enough to leave marks. She stood up and left the bar. Behind her, 3 other people stood up and followed. They did not speak. They did not need to. The galaxy did not know it yet, but something had changed. Commander Velthra thought she had disciplined an inferior child. What she had actually done was wake up every protective instinct in an entire species. Humans remembered, and humans protected their young. The countdown had begun. The video spread like fire in a dry forest. In the first hour, 10,000 humans saw it. In the second hour, 100,000. By the end of the day, every human settlement in the galaxy had received the footage. They watched a child fall. They watched her blood spread across white floors. They watched an alien walk away like nothing had happened. The response was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Captain, Yuna stood on the bridge of the Rising Dawn. Her ship was small compared to the military vessels of other species, but it was fast and well-armed. The crew was silent as they watched their captain. Everyone had seen the video. Everyone knew what it meant. How long until we reach Valara Station? Yuna asked. 18 hours at maximum speed, the pilot answered. Her name was Isul and her hands were steady on the controls. But Captain, we're supposed to be surveying the outer rim. Command hasn't authorized— They will, Yuna said. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we're responding to an incident involving a human child. Tell them we request backup. Lieutenant Taeyang stepped forward. He was tall and moved like a fighter. Before joining the diplomatic corps, he had been Special Forces. Captain, what are we going to do when we get there? Yuna looked at him. Her eyes were hard. We're going to ask nicely for justice, and if they say no, we're going to take it. Taeyang nodded. That was the answer he wanted to hear. In another part of space, Ambassador Nari sat in her office on the human embassy station. She was reading the formal complaint that Valara Station had filed with the Galactic Council. It was 3 pages long and very polite. It asked the Kaivethi Empire to please consider reviewing their officers' behavior. It suggested perhaps some cultural sensitivity training might be helpful. Nari threw the document across the room. Her assistant, a young man named Minho, picked it up. Ambassador, the Council is saying we need to follow proper procedures. They say humans are being too emotional about this. Too emotional, Nari repeated. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. A child was nearly killed. What emotion should we have? Her personal communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Do-Yun. His face appeared on her screen and he looked tired. They're not going to do anything, are they? Do-Hyun asked. No, Nari said. The Kaivethi have too much political power. The Council will file paperwork and forget about it in a month. Then we need to send a different kind of message, Do-Hyun said. I'm mobilizing 3 battle groups. They'll be ready in 72 hours. Admiral, that could start a war. Ambassador, a war already started. They just don't know it yet. Do-Hyun leaned closer to the camera. We've been playing by their rules for 15 years. Being polite, being careful, trying to fit in. And what did it get us? They think we're soft. They think they can hurt our children and hide behind diplomatic immunity. Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. What do you need from me? Keep the council talking. Make them think we're following procedures. Buy us time. I can do that, Nari said. But Do-hyun, when this is over, everything will be different. They'll never look at us the same way. Good, the Admiral said. It's time they saw what we really are. The connection ended. Nari sat in her dark office and thought about Earth. She remembered green forests and blue oceans. She remembered a world that tried to kill its children every day with storms and predators and diseases. Humans survived because they protected each other, because they never forgot a threat to the tribe. The Kivathi had made a mistake. They had threatened the tribe. Far from the clean offices and military bridges in the dark places where laws did not reach, Ji-won moved like a shadow. She stood in the cargo bay of a ship that did not appear on any registry. Around her, 5 other people checked their equipment in silence. These were the Wolves. They did not officially exist. Earth had no black operations unit, according to every public record. But when diplomacy failed and the military could not act, the Wolves moved in the darkness. Velthra leaves Valara Station in 60 hours, said Hyun. He was tall and thin, with glasses that made him look like a teacher. Before joining the Wolves, he had been a military lawyer. Her ship is a luxury cruiser with minimal security. The Kivathi think diplomatic immunity makes them untouchable. They're wrong, Ji-won said. She was loading equipment into a black bag. Everything was quiet. Weapons that made no sound, tools that left no trace. What about the station security? 3 of the guards are human, said another wolf. His name was Junho, and he was an expert at breaking into computer systems. They'll look the other way. The others we can avoid. What about witnesses? Asked a woman named Soman. She was small and could move through a room without anyone noticing. We'll have witnesses, Ji-won said. That's the point. We're not hiding this. We're sending a message. Hyun pulled up a hologram of Velthra's ship. Once we have her, what then? We can't just kill her. That would make us criminals. We're not criminals, Ji-won said. We're executioners. But first she gets a trial, a real one, not the joke the council would give her. We'll do this properly. We'll show them humans know the difference between justice and revenge. And if the Kivathi Empire comes after us? Yunyo asked. Ji-won smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then they'll learn what Deathworlders means. On Valara Station, Jiho sat beside Hana's bed. The machines beeped steadily. Her chest rose and fell with mechanical rhythm. The doctor said she was stable, but she had not opened her eyes. I'm sorry, Jiho whispered. He held her small hand carefully, afraid to grip too tight. I'm sorry I let you go alone. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. Dr. Suman came in with a tablet. She looked at the readings and nodded. Her brain activity is good. When the swelling goes down, we can try to wake her up. When? Jiho asked. 2 weeks. Maybe 3, 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, Velthra would be long gone. Jiho felt rage burning in his chest like acid. He wanted to find the alien and hurt her the way she had hurt Hana. He wanted to make her understand what it felt like to be helpless. But he was just a merchant. He had no weapons, no training, no power. His communicator buzzed. It was a message from someone he did not know. The message had no words, just a video file. Jiho opened it. The video showed Commander Velthra walking through a corridor. The timestamp was from 3 hours ago. Someone had marked her position on the station. Someone was tracking her. Another message arrived. This one had words, "We remember. We protect. Justice is coming." Jiho looked at his daughter. Then he looked at the message again. Somewhere out there, other humans were moving. He did not know who they were or what they planned. But he knew they had seen the same video he had sent. They had seen a child fall, and they were angry. The galaxy was about to learn something important. Humans could be kind and friendly. They could smile and make jokes and follow the rules. But underneath that softness was something harder, something that had evolved in a world that never stopped trying to kill them. Humans protected their pack, and someone had hurt the pack. The message was spreading. Ships were moving. Plans were being made. The Kivathi Empire thought this was over. They thought diplomatic immunity and political power would protect them. They were wrong. Commander Velthra walked through the docking bay with her head high. Behind her, 4 Kivathi soldiers carried luggage toward her ship. The luxury cruiser gleamed under the station lights, all smooth curves and expensive metal. Everything about it screamed wealth and power. "Commander," one of her officers said, "there are reports of human military vessels in the sector." "Let them come," Velthra said. Her mandibles clicked together in what passed for a laugh among her species. They can do nothing. I have diplomatic immunity. The council has already dismissed their pathetic complaint. The officer looked uncertain. The humans seem very angry about the incident. Humans are always emotional. It is a weakness of their kind. Velthra climbed the ramp into her ship. They will shout and make threats, and then they will do nothing. This is how the galaxy works. They are too new to understand. The ship's captain, a Kivathi named Threll, met her at the airlock. All systems ready, Commander. We can depart within the hour. Excellent. Take us to the Empire homeworld. I wish to file a complaint about these humans. Their accusations are insulting. The ship detached from the station and moved slowly toward open space. Inside the luxury cabin, Velthra poured herself a drink and relaxed. The incident was behind her. In a few days, no one would even remember the child's name. She had no idea she was already being hunted. The rising dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge, watching the screens. Somewhere ahead was Velthra's ship. Target acquired, Isol said from the pilot seat. Kivathi luxury cruiser heading for the jump point. How long until they can jump? Yuna asked. 15 minutes. They're charging their engines now. Yuna picked up the communication device. Her finger hovered over the button that would broadcast on all frequencies. Every ship in the system would hear her. Every station would record it. This would be official. She pressed the button. Kivathi vessel, this is Captain Yuna of the human ship Rising Dawn. You are carrying a fugitive wanted for assault on a miner. Surrender Commander Velthra immediately or we will board your ship. There was silence. Then Velthra's voice came through, full of anger. How dare you threaten an Imperial vessel? I have diplomatic immunity. Leave now or face the consequences. You struck a child, Yuna said. Her voice was cold and calm. You left her bleeding on the floor. There are no consequences we fear more than allowing that to go unpunished. The Galactic Council will hear of this. You are violating every treaty and Yuna cut the transmission. She looked at Taeyang. Send the footage. All channels. Every frequency. I want the whole galaxy to see what she did. Taeyang's fingers moved across his control panel. Seconds later, the video of Hana being struck was broadcasting everywhere. The small girl saying sorry. The raised claw. The terrible impact. The blood. 3 coalition patrol ships appeared on the sensors, moving to intercept the Rising Dawn. They were closer to Velthra's cruiser and would reach it first. Captain, we have company, Isol warned. I see them, Yuna said. She opened another channel. Coalition vessels, we are pursuing a criminal. Do not interfere. Human vessels, stand down immediately. You are in violation of... The space around them rippled. 12 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 2 carriers, 5 destroyers, and 5 frigates. The coalition patrol ship stopped moving. Say again? Yuna asked sweetly. I don't think we heard you correctly. The coalition ships backed away. They were outgunned, and they knew it. But while everyone watched this confrontation, no one noticed the small shuttle that had left Valara Station hours earlier. No one saw it drift quietly toward the Kivathi cruiser. No one saw it attached to the hull like a tick on skin. Inside the cruiser, the Kivathi crew went about their duties. They felt safe. They had diplomatic protection. They had the law on their side. They did not see the shadows that moved through their ship. Jiwan and her wolves came through the airlock in complete silence. Their suits absorbed light and muffled sound. They moved like ghosts through the corridors, avoiding cameras and crew with practiced ease. Junho had hacked the ship's computer before they even docked. He could see every crew member, every locked door, every security measure. He guided the team through hand signals and subtle touches. They passed a Kivathi guard. He was reading something on a data pad and never looked up. Someone could have reached out and touched him. Instead, she slipped past like smoke. Velthra is in the main cabin, Junho whispered into their communication devices. 2 guards outside, 2 inside. Somin, Junho, take the outside guards. Hyun, with me, Jiwon said. She pulled out a small device that looked like a silver disc. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. The disc flew through the air and attached to the cabin door. It beeped once, then emitted a pulse. The electronic lock died. Jiwon and Hyun pushed through the door before the guards inside could react. The guards reached for weapons. They were too slow. Hyun hit the first one with a stun rod. The Kivathi dropped without a sound. Jiwon tackled the second guard, her hand over his mandibles to keep him quiet. A second stun rod touch and he collapsed. Velthra stood in the center of her luxury cabin, frozen in shock. She had been holding a glass of wine. It fell from her claws and shattered on the floor. You cannot do this, she said. I have immunity. You have about 3 seconds before I stun you too, Jiwan said. Your choice. Come quietly or come unconscious. Velthra looked at the human woman. Jiwan was smaller than her, less than half her height, but something in the human's eyes made the Kaivathi commander step back. The Empire will destroy you for this, Velthra said. They can try, Jiwan said. Now move. They dragged Velthra through the ship in less than 10 minutes. Every guard they passed was already unconscious, taken down by Soman and the others. The wolves left no casualties. They did not kill unless necessary. But the message was clear. They could have killed everyone on the ship. They chose not to. That was scarier than murder. Back on the Rising Dawn, Yuna received a message on her private channel. Package secured. No casualties. Returning to home base, she allowed herself a small smile. Coalition vessels, thank you for your cooperation. We're leaving now. Wait, you still haven't, the Coalition captain started to say. But the human ships were already jumping away, their engines folding space around them. By the time the Coalition captain finished his sentence, they were gone. On the Kivathi cruiser, the crew woke up one by one. They checked their ship and found no damage. Nothing was stolen. But Commander Velthra was gone, taken from her own cabin with no trace of how the humans had entered or left. Captain Threll sent an emergency message to the Kaivathi Empire. The commander has been kidnapped by human forces. They breached our ship without triggering any alarms. They took her and vanished. The Kaivathi Empire was furious. They demanded Velthra's return. They called the human action an act of war. They threatened retaliation. But deep in their government buildings, some of the older Kaivathi officials looked at the reports and felt something unfamiliar. It took them a while to recognize the feeling. It was fear. The humans had moved through a secured ship like it was made of paper. They had taken a high-ranking officer from under armed guard. They had done it without killing anyone, which somehow made it worse. It meant they had complete control. It meant they could have done anything, and they had done this for a child. One small human child. Ambassador Nari watched the news reports in her office. Every channel was talking about it. Some praised the humans for taking action. Others condemned them for violating diplomatic rules. The galaxy was divided, but no one was ignoring them anymore. Minho came in with a message tablet. Ambassador, the Kaivathi Empire is demanding we return Velthra immediately. They say if we don't, they'll consider it an act of war. Nari read the message. Then she looked at Minho and smiled. Send them a response. Tell them Commander Velthra will receive a fair trial under coalition law. Tell them we have evidence of her crime. Tell them justice will be served. And if they attack, then they'll learn what happens when you hurt our children. In a secure cell on a human military vessel, Commander Velthra sat alone. The walls were bare metal. The door had no handle. She could hear nothing but her own breathing. For the first time in her life, diplomatic immunity could not save her. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 200 species shouted at each other. Some demanded the humans return their prisoner. Others called for investigation. A few said nothing and watched carefully, waiting to see which way the political wind would blow. Ambassador Nari stood at the human podium, calm in the center of the storm. She waited for the noise to die down. It took 20 minutes. The humans have committed an act of piracy, the Kaivathi representative shouted. His name was Thelvor, and his mandibles clicked with rage. They boarded an Imperial vessel and kidnapped a high-ranking officer. This is an act of war. Commander Velthra is not kidnapped, Nari said. Her voice carried across the chamber. She is under arrest. There is a difference. You have no authority to arrest a Kaivathi officer. We have video evidence of her striking a human child. The child is 7 years old. She is currently in a coma with severe brain trauma. Nari pressed a button and the footage played on every screen in the chamber. Again, the galaxy watched Hana fall. Some representatives looked away. Others watched with cold eyes, calculating. This is a tragedy, Thelvor said, though his voice suggested he did not think it was tragic at all. But the commander has diplomatic immunity. Your own laws say. Our laws say we protect our citizens, Nari interrupted. Especially our children. We are willing to compromise. You may choose. Either allow a coalition tribunal to try Commander Velthra under galactic law, or we will try her on Earth under human law. The chamber erupted again. The idea of a human trial for a Kaivathi officer was unthinkable. But so was a coalition tribunal. It would set a precedent that diplomatic immunity had limits. Hyun had prepared for this moment. He had spent weeks building the legal case, finding every treaty and precedent that supported humanity's position. Now he sat in a small room near the council chamber, feeding information to Nari through a private channel. Article 14 of the Coalition Charter, he whispered. Protection of juveniles supersedes diplomatic immunity in cases of severe physical harm. Nari repeated the words. Several representatives checked their own copies of the charter. She was right. The law was on humanity's side, but no one had ever enforced it before. The Kavathi Empire rejects this, Thelvor said. We demand Velthra's return, now or there will be consequences. Consequences? Nari asked. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Please explain these consequences. Before Thelvor could respond, the chamber's communication system activated. Admiral Do-hyun's face appeared on the screens. He was on the bridge of a battleship, and behind him officers moved with quiet efficiency. This is Admiral Do-hyun of the Earth Defense Fleet. 3 battle groups are currently on high alert. If the Kavathi Empire attacks any human vessel or settlement, we will respond with full force. We do not want war. We want justice. But we will accept either. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what the Admiral was saying. Humanity was prepared to fight the entire Kavathi Empire over one child. Thelvor looked at his fellow Kavathi representatives. They had not expected this. They had thought the humans would back down when threatened. Instead, the humans had escalated. This is insanity, Thelvor said quietly. You would risk war for one child? Yes, Nari said simply. Every time. Without hesitation. A representative from the Dorathi species stood up. Her name was Sela, and she was old even by her species' long-lived standards. The Kaivathi Empire has abused diplomatic immunity before. We all know this. Perhaps it is time we address the issue. Other representatives began to speak. The Melkari had lost trade officials to Kavathi violence. The Thorian Collective had records of similar incidents. Slowly, the political calculation shifted. The Kavathi were powerful, yes, but they had made many enemies over the centuries. After 2 days of arguing, the council reached a decision. There would be a tribunal. It would be held on neutral ground, with judges from 5 different species. The trial would follow coalition law, but humans would be allowed to observe and present evidence. The Kavathi Empire protested, but ultimately agreed. The alternative was war, and they were not certain they would win. The trial took place on Station Unity, a neutral space station designed for diplomatic meetings. The courtroom was circular, with seats rising up in tiers. At the center was a platform for the accused. Commander Velthra stood on that platform in shackles. She looked smaller than she had on Valara Station. Without her armor and weapons, she was just another being facing judgment. The judges entered. A Dorathi elder, a Melkari scholar, a Thorian priest, a human legal expert, and a Kavathi official chosen for his reputation for fairness. 5 beings who would decide Velthra's fate. The Kavathi defense attorney was skilled. He argued cultural differences. He claimed Velthra had been startled and reacted instinctively. He said humans were too soft, too sensitive, that what happened was unfortunate but not criminal. Then it was the prosecution's turn. A human lawyer named Taejin presented the evidence. He showed the video from multiple angles. He displayed medical reports detailing Hana's injuries. He brought in expert witnesses who explained the force necessary to fracture a child's skull. This was not an accident, Taejin said. This was not a cultural misunderstanding. This was an adult striking a child with lethal force because she was offended by an accidental bump. The commander showed no remorse. She called it appropriate discipline. Velthra's lawyer objected. The child is of an inferior— Stop, the human judge said. His name was Chanho, and he was old enough to remember when humans first joined the galactic community. There are no inferior species in this court. We are all equal under coalition law. The Kaivathi judge nodded in agreement. That surprised everyone, including Velthra. On the 3rd day of the trial, Ensign Minji presented something unexpected. She had compiled footage of Hana's life on Valara Station. The courtroom watched the little girl helping her father in the shop. They saw her laughing at a customer's joke. They watched her carefully counting change, her tongue sticking out in concentration. They saw her running through corridors, always saying "excuse me," always smiling. The footage ended with Hana reading a book to a group of alien children in the station's education center. She was teaching them human words. The children were laughing. Hana looked happy. The courtroom was very quiet after that. Lieutenant Taiyang took the stand. He did not talk about the crime. Instead, he talked about Earth. People ask why humans react so strongly to threats against our children, he said. They say we are too emotional, but emotion is not weakness. It is what kept us alive. He pulled up images of Earth, storms that could flatten cities, predators that hunted in the dark, diseases that killed millions. This is where we come from. A world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived because we protected each other, because we remembered threats, because we never ever let harm to our young go unanswered. So yes, we are emotional. We love fiercely. We protect absolutely. And when someone hurts our children, we do not forget. We do not forgive. We ensure it never happens again. He looked directly at Velthra. The commander thought diplomatic immunity would protect her. She thought humans were too weak, too new, too civilized to do anything. She was wrong. The judges deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, every seat in the courtroom was filled. People had come from across the galaxy to hear the verdict. The Dorathi judge spoke. We find Commander Velthra guilty of assault resulting in severe injury of a minor. The evidence is overwhelming. The intent is clear. This court sentences her to 30 years in coalition prison, with immediate removal of all rank and titles. The Kaivathi Empire representative stood up. This court has no authority. We reject this verdict. The commander will return with us now. The human judge Chanho looked at him. If you remove the prisoner from this court, the Earth Defense Fleet will consider it an act of war. Your choice. The Kaivathi representative sat down slowly. Velthra was led away. She tried to maintain her dignity, but her legs shook. 30 years in prison. Her life was over, but the Kaivathi Empire was not finished. In secret chambers, officials met and made plans. They could not officially rescue Velthra without starting a war. But accidents happened. Prisoners escaped. Perhaps the commander would disappear before reaching the prison. They did not know that the wolves were already listening. They did not know that Jiwan had eyes and ears in places even the Kaivathi intelligence service could not find. The trial was over. Justice had been served. But the message was not yet complete. The prison transport ship moved through space with heavy escort. Commander Velthra sat in a cell in the center of the ship, surrounded by guards and security measures. Coalition law said she must serve her sentence. The Kaivathi Empire had no choice but to accept it, or so everyone thought. The ship was 2 days from the prison station when the power failed. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red shadows. The guards reached for weapons, but the locks on their equipment belts would not open. The electronic systems were dead. In her cell, Velthra heard footsteps. They were not the heavy boots of guards. These steps were light, almost silent. "Who is there?" she called out. A figure appeared in the darkness. It wore armor she recognized, Kaivathi Special Forces. Her people had come for her. "Commander," the soldier said, "we are extracting you. The Empire does not abandon its own." Within minutes, Velthra was off the ship and on a small stealth vessel. The prison transport's crew did not wake up for 6 hours. By then, the rescue ship was long gone, jumping through back routes that did not appear on any official star map. Velthra felt relief wash over her. She was free. The humans could not touch her now. The Empire would hide her somewhere safe, and in a few years, when everyone forgot about the incident, she would return to duty. She did not notice the small device attached to her shackles. She did not see the tracer sending signals through space. Jiwan received the signal on her ship. She was sitting in the dark, cleaning a weapon that had no serial numbers. When the alert came through, she smiled. "They took the bait," she said to Hyun, who was working at a computer nearby. The escape was facilitated by Kaivathi intelligence operatives from their Black Division, Hyun said, reading data streams. "I have recorded everything. Ship ID, personnel involved, communication intercepts. Everything we need. Good. Now we wait." 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened for their annual Grand Assembly. It was the most important meeting of the year. Representatives from every member species gathered in the massive chamber on the capital world. They wore their finest clothes and brought their most important proposals. The humans arrived exactly on time. Ambassador Nari led the delegation with Minho carrying documents behind her. They took their seats in the human section and waited for the ceremonies to begin. The Kivathi representative, Thelvor, stood to give the opening speech. He talked about tradition and law. He talked about the importance of diplomatic immunity. He never mentioned Velthra by name, but everyone knew what he was talking about. He called humanity's actions barbaric and dangerous. Then Captain Yuna walked onto the council floor. She was not supposed to be there. Only ambassadors and their staff were allowed during sessions. Guards moved to intercept her, but Ambassador Nari held up a hand. She has my permission. Yuna walked to the center of the chamber. Behind her, Lieutenant Taeyang followed, carrying a sealed container. The chamber fell silent. Every camera in the galaxy was focused on this moment. "We are Deathworlders," Yuna said. Her voice carried to every corner of the massive room. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived because we protected our own, because we remembered threats, because we never ever forgot when someone hurt our children." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. "You thought laws written by comfortable species would protect you from consequences. You thought diplomatic immunity meant you could do anything. You were wrong." Yuna gestured to Taeyang. He stepped forward and opened the container. Inside, preserved in a stasis field that kept it perfectly fresh, was Commander Velthra's head. The chamber exploded in chaos. Representatives jumped to their feet. Some shouted in anger. Others stared in shock. The Kivathi delegation was screaming for justice, for arrest, for war, but Yuna kept speaking. Her voice cut through the noise like a knife. "This is not murder. This is execution. Your tribunal found her guilty. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison. But she never reached that prison, did she? She was broken out by Kivathi special forces in direct violation of coalition law." Yun stepped forward, distributing data chips to every delegation. His hands were steady, his expression calm. He looked like a lawyer presenting evidence, not a man involved in an execution. "You will find complete documentation of the escape," Hyun said. "We have ship identities, personnel records, communication intercepts. We also have evidence of 14 other incidents where Kivathi officers evaded justice through diplomatic manipulation. And we have proof that the Kivathi Empire planned to assassinate Ambassador Nari in retaliation for the trial." The chamber's noise changed. Representatives began examining the data chips. The accusations were serious. If true, they showed the Kivathi Empire deliberately violating coalition law. Thelvor stood, his voice shaking with rage. "This is lies. Propaganda. The humans killed a Kivathi officer, and now they spread false accusations to justify their crime. Then investigate," Nari said, standing up. "We welcome investigation. Examine our evidence. Check our sources. Everything is documented." Admiral Do-hyun's voice came over the communication channels. "The Earth Defense Fleet has 17 targets locked. We can see every Kivathi military vessel in this system. If your security forces move against our delegation, we will defend them." With extreme force, the threat was clear. The humans had come prepared for war. For hours, the council chamber was frozen in standoff. Security forces surrounded the human delegation, but they did not move to arrest them. The humans sat calmly, as if they had not just brought a severed head to a diplomatic assembly. Representatives examined Hyun's evidence. The data was solid. The Kivathi had broken coalition law to free Velthra. They had planned attacks on human targets. The assassination plot against Nari was real. Kivathi intelligence had been sloppy, leaving traces that the wolves had found. Slowly, the political calculations shifted. Other species began to speak. The Melkari representative talked about Kivathi officers who had escaped justice in their territory. The Thorian collective shared similar stories. The Dorathi presented cases going back decades. The Kivathi Empire had always been powerful enough that no one challenged them. But now someone had, and that someone had won. The Kivathi delegation demanded sanctions against humanity. They called for the arrest of every human in the chamber. But when the vote was called, they stood alone. Even their traditional allies stayed silent. The council leadership made a decision. No formal sanctions against humanity, but also no formal approval. The matter would be investigated further. It was the diplomatic way of saying everyone would pretend it never happened. The Kivathi Empire left the assembly in fury. Their military mobilized, but they did not attack, because deep down they knew they had lost. Not militarily, they might even win a war, but they had lost the moral high ground. They had lost the sympathy of other species. They had lost the fear that diplomatic immunity had always provided. The humans left the capital world quietly. They had said what they came to say. They had sent the message they intended to send. On Valara Station, Jiho sat beside Hana's bed. She had woken up 3 days earlier. The doctors said she would recover, though she would need months of therapy. Her speech was slow, her memory patchy, but she was alive. She was smiling again. "Papa," she said softly, "why is everyone being so nice to us?" Jiho thought about how to answer. How could he explain that the entire human species had gone to war for her, that ships had moved, soldiers had killed, and the political order of the galaxy had shifted, all because someone had hurt his daughter? "Because people care about you," he said finally, "and because humans protect their own." Hana thought about this. Then she smiled. "I like being human. Me too, sweetheart." "Me too." Across the galaxy, ships returned to their normal routes. Battle groups stood down. The wolves faded back into shadows, their work complete. Captain Yuna and her crew returned to their diplomatic duties. Admiral Doyun filed reports that were immediately classified. But something had changed. When human merchants arrived at stations, other species made room. When human diplomats spoke, people listened. When human children played in station corridors, guards watched carefully to make sure nothing happened to them. The galaxy had learned a lesson. It was written in blood and delivered in person to their highest council. The lesson was simple. Humans were dangerous. Not because they were violent by nature, not because they wanted war, but because they remembered, because they protected their young with absolute commitment, because they were Deathworlders who had survived by never letting threats go unanswered. You could trade with humans, you could talk with them, you could even be friends with them. But you could never, ever hurt their children. A year later, a Kivathi merchant approached a human at a trading post. The human was wearing a small patch on her jacket, a child's face with the words, "We remember." The Kivathi stepped back without a word and walked away. The message had been received. The galaxy would not forget, and neither would humanity.